It is Wednesday, January 2nd, 2022. Um, I'm in quiet reflection at the moment in the morning, watching over some of the news outlets or to see what the thematic is or the pattern that they've decided to show, knowing that in the box office at the movies, Avatar, Way of the Water came out at AMC. Which is like for me at the moment, AM 100, they had on, agreed upon, I suppose, before it was commercialized, um, the previews in the movies. One of them was Keanu Reeves. Now, I know at Quiet Hole in Time and Space, there's a difference between receiving a message from a heartthrob and receiving a message from a person, I suppose, in the messaging, whatever. I don't even have words for how they itemize the difference between, is it a heartthrob bias, or is it I mean, again, it's all calculated somehow in Architect and the Oracle being the two destinal points of contention, holding some window open, um, in theory and science, that is both geospatial and actual, between practical and physicality, for which I hold symmetry in Calcaneus calculus, between my arrival and the future. It's actually set. So that's where the precision is an expectation, not just a quandary. Um, there is a difference between something being, well, that's curious, and that's interesting. Usually, special interest is deemed interesting, and then research and development seems very curious. Um, Difference between what I'm actually experiencing in the time capsule in my field as a POV with this very special arrival and system between the here and now and the future, and how things unfold and unravel. And then this word experimental. Again, ornaments being what they are on the family Christmas tree. Um, I get that there's the cross that we bear in the field. That's one level of management. Then there's the star level of management that geospatially brings in the POV, and the shield level of protection from protected airspace, for which at this point I feel the third layer, the interaction thereof in AERO dynamics, has been breached, and I've been hurt. Now my physicality is being hurt. And today, this man, they label him as people, People. Um, he is coming on and he speaks of his experience, being that he does not have calcaneus calculus in the same symmetry between the here and now and the future. He has a here and now piece, but it is not future related in the same dynamical symmetry for which I was born in reality of time. So on this um, on this comic attractions where the commercial agreement, I guess, at oligarchs and power, but like wealth at the level of Robin Leach from like the rich and famous of Robin Leach. I'm not talking about like 80 for Brady at arena level. He's a one-time wealth generator, supposedly or allegedly, in this theorem. He's got the here and now, and he did well. I'm talking Robin Leach, like when we arrived, they were already off to the races and doing whatever and involved in whatever they were and already wealthy. And they hold the generational wealth. How could I be so left out of being cared for by such people when I hold that window and the actual calcaneus calculus between the creation of now and the creation of the future? In I hold the window and the gate between myself and my son. In the hierarchy of stars, it is a very important distinction for which I feel it's going completely, other than really nice praises in there's four women who are boosting Brady's ego in this whatever, in this movie of 80 for Brady, where they are not only backing football, it looks like, but they're also backing the star quarterback. Now, I'm not surprised. When I arrived, the generational wealth proponents or builders within the grand architect, and with the eye on the future and knowing that the oracle produced the child who would then produce the future that they would still need to base everything off of, um, in defenses of certain components. Um, I looked to Star Wars. Brady arrived 77. That's in reference to A New Hope after the two wars, before anyone here can actually remember. I don't know the two wars. Nobody's taught about the two wars in my time capsule, not from any side. Then there's if I jump from 77, there's an 8-3 reference for the House of August, and it says Return to the Jedi. I do not know four-letter components. I've seen what they've built as a reality of that. Um, but it has the 8-3, for which, um, in quantum and quintessential, it's extremely important. And then this 80 is when the Empire Strikes Back. That's what that is in reference to. So I also, um, they had a coming attraction before The Way of the Water and this Avatar, where interestingly enough, they had a Tarzan. That's the human baby amongst the gorillas, which actually kind of feels like how I was. That feels like the Citadel in New York at the moment. Um, but there's one human baby amongst all the gorillas of warfare. Um, it would appear that that statement seems to be quantifiably true. Um, as I maintain my posture and communication at the best that I level that I know how. Um, and so this Keanu Reeves movie, He's sitting in something that looks very Vatican in Rome like. I have humble structures on in Queens and on the island. I don't know where the ornate wealth of the Vatican. I think it's St. Patrick's in Manhattan, but that is a long travel, and there's really at this point no reason for me to go there. I wouldn't know who to meet with or what to say, um, or what's needed of me in calling. Um, but this Keanu Reeves character is in this movie, and then somebody meets with him and says, "You don't have a seat at the table, but somebody related to you does." And I was like, message received. I mean, things that have not been spoken of in this silence, in this isolation of I don't know why it happened this way. Um, but here's the difference between curious, interesting experience and experimental. Yesterday, I went into the water closet in the residence. I turned the nozzle. I I put the water on and it started running. I had it just set at the regular temperature. And all of a sudden, the entire, it's not a large space, but steam started filling the entire room. And I'm like, I have been in this same situation countless times of least importance. But for some reason, yesterday, it's somewhere between interesting and curious, somewhere between my experience and some kind of experimental that somebody already knows what the answer is. The cavity in the room filled with this steam, STEAM, for which I don't know what the components of the steam are. What I do know is that in this residence, there's some kind of, it feels like on the tongue, some kind of oil residue. I don't know where it's coming from. I can see that my liver is swollen. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it's aerosol, respirated. I don't know if it's ingested by some vector of water from the tap. Boiling it doesn't help. The residue is still there. I don't know what kind of toxin it is. I've been, they've, I have had attempts on my life before. This is not the first time. I just don't know how to report it. Normally, they catch the attempts either in the act or precedent to when it happens. So I don't know how to avoid what's going on now or correct it, but it is impacting somewhere between my myomuscular, incellular, intracellular, or histology of tissues. It's somewhere between my muscles and my connective tissue. I'm having a really hard time at the manifold of where connective and muscle tissue meet. Almost, I don't know if they want to, if it's tendon related or whatever, but it is multiple joints is where it's settling. And my liver is not always swollen, but over the last few days, it has swelled up to where my abdomen is actually distended to a point where I can see it, and it's in this awkward way. Um, so again, I don't know if there's some agitated tribe member from some distant colony that has some access to either funds or special interest groups here, if they're trying to start some research and development in order to get funding into the city, that one of the degregates is like in some chair position where they're like, well, we'll accept some money, some people get sick. Like, then again, that's where like the concessions start happening. And I'm not even being addressed or asked. I don't have any money to get away from this. And I also don't have money for private health care to seek the correct level of medical doctor that I might need, since the general practitioners are not participating in a manner for which my health paradigm is getting any better. So, with that being said, um, here's this is what I don't have this level, but this reminds me of the coming attraction message from before Avatar movie, in commercials where they're letting, and Keanu Reeves crossover in his career. He was also the person who's picked as Neo inside the Matrix. So again, his career has relevance, um, for that pairing. Now, the man that they label in this area that comes in, Linda orders this. Um, this man is also on the first episode, in CBS Mornings. It has a reference to this. Again, I don't know if that's his origin. I've been here before, not on the inside, but on the outside of the gates, to see the clock tower of Big Ben, at the 107. I don't know if that's large. It's not latitude. It would be longitude. Well, it's not altitude. It's either latitude or longitude. I'm not sure.
In a revealing interview for 60 Minutes, Prince Harry recently sat down with Anderson Cooper to discuss his new memoir, Spare. The prince also reflected on his childhood, the death of his mother, and moving from the UK.
Now, he's inside the United States, um, and he's on the California, so he's on the West Coast. I'm on a different coast. But, um, he mentions this word betrayal, for which I've never even thought on before or heard about. Nobody speaks of that in this area to me directly.
UK to America. Here's a preview.
One of the criticisms that you've received is that, well, okay, fine, you want to move to California, you want to step back from the institutional role. Why be so public? You say you tried to do this privately.
And every single time I've tried to do it privately, there have been briefings and leakings and planting of stories against me and my wife. You know, the family motto is never complain, never explain, but it's just a motto. And it doesn't really hold.
There's a lot of complaining and a lot of explaining.
And
private being done through leaks.
Through leaks. They will feed or have a conversation with the correspondent, and that correspondent will literally be spoon-fed information and write the story. And in the bottom of it, they will say that they've reached out to Buckingham Palace for comment. But the whole story is Buckingham Palace commenting. So when we're being told...
I don't really know what that means. Again, if I reference Star Wars, there's a time and a place for this Sith reality and absolute, and then there's the other majority of the time, which is Jedi, where it's kind of sort of but not really. So again,
told for the last 6 years, we can't put a statement out to protect you, but that you do it for other members of the family, there becomes a point when silence is betrayal.
You can see the full interview this Sunday night, January 8th on 60 Minutes, right here on CBS.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, although I can't wholeheartedly on every situation agree with that either. It is situational, and at the moment, I'm having some problems between interesting and curious, between special interest groups and research and development being whatever they are and however they're handled. I'm not clear. but my actual health, the actual health of my person, is being impacted. And I know I'm supposed to have a very important role somewhere between the here and now and the future. And the past has not been handled properly, clearly, by where I am in this here and now. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. Um, I also saw this morning that the Giants head coach got a gator aid bath because, again, I'm not in a league of football. I don't know. There's the Petticoat Junction reference I found yesterday with season 1, episode 5, where they referenced my 1-8 in the football between Hootersville and the Hornets, and then the one Hornet inside the football. Got it. I've received the message, but they don't speak to me. Not necessarily like the symbols do, but the actual, like, I couldn't, if somehow I'm supposed to hold up and praise like a Joel Osteen. I made a video before about him saying about holding up and praising and being nice. I do that about Brady. Don't know the man. I don't follow his personal life. I don't want to get whatever sidetracked with their humanism, but to hold up and praise the few key pieces the best I can in a very whatever that I've done. And then the rest is just questioning the somewhere between research and development and special interests in it's not serving any of my needs necessarily. It just seems like a lot of busy work and task administration, but I'm having serious trouble that's going unaddressed.